for you to learn something to help you expand your own personal development. So many people have told me that the Wednesday sessions have transformed their lives, and some people are coming from other churches and tuning in from other places to learn about this. This has been my joy, actually, is to teach leadership, which you cannot do where life do on Sunday morning. This is very special for me. Just a reminder that everything that you are being taught in these sets are in books. These books are being written and they are distributed all over the world in many different languages, and I want you to take advantage of them. Of course, everything that we teach here is built on the principles of the kingdom of God, so we definitely want you to get all the books on the kingdom. And of course, the leadership books we advise you to get are the books that are being displayed on vision, of leadership, and of course the books that are dealing with being in charge of your destiny and how to make that happen. Spanish is one of our major distribution languages, so we're very proud of ourselves being one of the leading distributors in South America. In Honduras this past week, I was shocked to hear that the president came and spoke briefly of the country. His first remark was, I read your books. And that was interesting that the president of Honduras read my books. And the book he says he loved the best is the one called The Power of Vision. And I was very pleased to hear that those leaders in those countries are reading those books. So make sure that you also take advantage of them, and also encourage you to be a part of our seminars coming up so you can grow in faith. I want to speak to you tonight about this is part 2 of what we started last time I was with you. And you can write this topic down, please. This is the simple approach to leadership development. I'm going to deal with the 10 principles and marks of the future leader. The 10 principles and marks of the future leader. Please write that topic down. This is continuing from our last session where we talked about the introduction of the 10 principles of leadership. I'm going to deal with some of the marks, how you can tell who will be the successful leaders emerging in the next 10, 20 years. And I use the term future leaders intentionally because the leadership styles of yesteryear will not work anymore. Things have changed. The environment has changed, and what it's going to take for you to be effective as a leader, a woman or a man, male or female, is going to have to be very, very distinctly different. However, principles never change. So it's important for us to learn the principles, even though things are changing. Our focus tonight will be on understanding the process of discovering and developing your leadership ability. I'm talking to everyone. I'm so happy that so many of you are here tonight, because normally when people hear about leadership, they think it's for someone else. It's not for them. And this is very much a struggle for me over the years, especially dealing with people from developing countries and former colonies, for them to believe that leadership is not reserved for a small group of people who are the elite, who somehow have gifts that we don't have. But the concept of leadership that I have discovered changed my life, and that is that every human being possesses leadership potential. Most of them will die as followers, and this is the tragedy. And I'm trying to prevent that as much as I can to every developing country, beginning with my own country here in the Bahamas. And this is why we focus so much on leadership here in this ministry, but also in the nations that we travel to. And our invitations are coming from left and right now, all over the world. Many countries are calling us to come and teach them leadership from our perspective. I want to begin talking for a minute about the few comments concerning the art of leadership. The art of leadership. I am convinced that every human being possesses leadership ability. But leadership is not really a right, it's a privilege. People don't have to follow you. So it's always a privilege for people to call you a leader or see you as a leader. That leads to my third point. True leadership has more to do with attitude than with technique. Most of us who have heard about leadership programs or leadership seminars or leadership colleges, you normally go to those places to learn techniques or methods of controlling people or organizing people or motivating people. But leadership is not really much about technique. It's more about attitude, and attitude is something that no one can teach you. Attitude is a result of a belief system. So really, leadership is born, first of all, out of a belief that a person discovers that gives them a conviction that changes their attitude. This, therefore, is what I call the spirit of leadership versus the leadership spirit. Now, in my book on the spirit of leadership, which I hope that you would read, in that book I did research for about 12 years of struggle as to why don't people change after many years of teaching them. And the answer is in that book. It took me a while to figure it out. You can actually be with someone for a long time and keep communicating to them information and they still don't change. And I discovered that the reason why people don't change is because their attitude is their problem. But attitude is a result of your thoughts, your beliefs about yourself. And belief comes from ideas. And ideas have a source. They got to come from somewhere. And so leadership is really birthed when a person gets the right ideas about themselves and they believe those ideas. And they become a conviction. That conviction is what makes the person blossom into a leader. So I call it the spirit of leadership and the leadership spirit. The spirit of leadership and the leadership spirit are different to me. The leadership spirit is what you are born with. Every human was born with it. But the spirit of leadership is different. That is something that you have to learn. And that comes from a belief system. That's why I'm teaching in this series on these particular attitudes. Let's talk a little bit about a few comments about what is true leadership. Write this down, please. Leadership comes down to two specific things. One, who you are, and two, how you think. Who you are and how you think. Leadership is not a matter of controlling people, dominating people. It's not about having a lot of people even follow you. Matter of fact, many great leaders never sought followers. Leadership is about discovering who you are and then how you think about who you are. Another important point I want to make is that your attitude is more powerful than your aptitude. Again, we're talking about discovery of self versus thinking correctly. Aptitude have to do with your education. Attitude has to do with your belief. I have met people with PhDs in physics who think like slaves. And that's because their aptitude did not change their attitude, because education is not the same as revelation. You can be very well educated and very timid, afraid of people. Sometimes we call these people nerds. You know, people who have great aptitude, sharp cognitive ability, but they cannot have a good conversation with people, cannot transfer their ideas to someone. They have no sense of conviction and no passion. Your mother and father, like mine did, told me that if I got a good education, I'd be successful. I've come to believe that that's not true. A good education may give you opportunity, but it doesn't give you influence. And you cannot lead until you can influence people. And influence comes from people respecting a gift that you have. So many of you in this auditorium tonight, and maybe watching this program, you've got great degrees from colleges. And yet you still work for someone. It's amazing that most of the people who build businesses or who own corporations, most of them dropped out of school. And that's the mystery. People who didn't finish their college degree end up with an idea that becomes $1 billion idea. And the guy who got a PhD in accountancy have to count their money for them. Because leadership is really not about aptitude. It's about something else. That leads to my third point, very important. Make a note of this. Leadership consists of two principles. One, manifestation, and two, movement. Both start with M. Write them down. Leadership has to do with manifestation and movement. Everybody say manifestation. Movement. Now, leaders have to deal with both. What do I mean by manifestation and movement? First of all, let's talk about manifestation. Manifestation has to do with self-discovery. Leadership begins with you being introduced to yourself. Most of us never met ourselves. As a matter of fact, we are afraid of ourselves. Because the real self is the one that they have taught you to suppress. Your real self is the little child inside of you who believed in the dream that you've been carrying that you're afraid to talk about. And that's what the culture does. It buries that little child. When you was a baby or maybe a young kid, people ask you, what do you want to be? And you might say things like, I want to be the president of my country. And they would say, be realistic. What they did was they destroyed what was natural for you in your conviction. That child believed that that was possible. The adult destroyed it. So what happens is by the time you have grown up, you're so afraid to share your dreams with people that they make you exactly what they want you to be, which is an employee working for a salary. In other words, they make you just like them. What leadership has to do with is when you meet that little child again. This is what I am in the business of. I'm in the business of introducing you to yourself. Most people died and never show up on earth. They always with someone else. Matter of fact, most of us are exactly what the culture made us. So we still don't know people. This is why leadership has to do with what? Self-manifestation. A leader is born when you discover who you are and decide to become it. That's what I call self-manifestation. It is from that you see a vision for your life. It's when you connect with your dream again. It's when you connect with your passions, your secret visions that you don't tell anybody about because they're too big. That's the real you. That leads to point number 2, and that is movement. Leadership is about movement. Movement is moving from the present to the future. All leaders are moving. Leadership is about movement. It is about going from where you are to a place you've never been except in your mind. So you cannot be a leader and maintain things. Management is about maintenance. Leadership is about movement. So leaders are always creating, developing, innovating. They are always involved in disturbing traditions because they are constantly moving. If there were no leaders in the world would be dead right now. Leaders are those people who disturb comfort. They shake up the familiar. They challenge the barriers that you set. You know, the fastest man in the world right now is a man named Bolt, correct? And no one believed that the record that he ran could have been broken. Always remember, every record was designed to be broken. So you should never accept a limitation. He became the leader in the fast track race because he broke tradition. Tradition is a record someone set. It's a standard someone established. And leaders are always moving. And when they meet a barrier, they push it until it breaks. And they create a new barrier. And this is why crisis comes to make leaders move. If you stay one place too long, life will bring a crisis to move you. So when we talk about crisis in the world, that's a good thing. It means that it's time to move. Invent new ways of handling economic development, social development, new ways of handling politics, new ways of handling building a country, new ways of starting new businesses or new environments or new culture. In other words, crisis comes to disturb tradition. Most of the leaders in history were born out of crisis. Think about Nelson Mandela, born out of crisis. Mother Teresa, born out of crisis. Sir Lyndon Pinley, born out of crisis. Martin Luther King Jr., born out of crisis. We remember people who crisis produced. Maybe that's why you're having a little problem right now. Life is about to produce a leader. So don't curse a crisis. Study it. It comes to make you what you thought you could never be. I'm going to share with you again my philosophy of leadership, why I do what I do. This is what I believe, and I studied this from that great book called the Bible. First of all, I believe that trapped in every follower is a hidden leader. That motivates me to work with you. Number two, I believe that every human being was created to lead, and they were designed to dominate, but not to dominate people. They were designed to dominate in an area of gifting. That leads to point number three. Leadership potential, therefore, resides in everyone. It doesn't mean they're going to develop it. It's like a seed who never becomes a tree. The tree is in the seed, but it could die and never bring forth the tree. So it is with you. You were born with a leader on the inside, but your environment can actually be toxic, and you will never become what you were born to be. That leads to point number four. You were born to lead, but you must become a leader. Now, I believe this with all my heart. What I mean by that is, let's go back to the seed again. Does a seed have a tree in it? What's the answer? Yes, it does. Does life guarantee that the tree would come out of the seed? No. What would make the tree come out of the seed? It has to go through what? A process. So even though the tree is in the seed, it has to become what's in it. It's true about you too. You have a great person on the inside, and they already exist. But you have to go through a process to become that great person. And this is why no leader is made in a day. They are products of time and tests and challenges and frustration and experiences and failure and getting back up. That's what makes a great person. So if you are going through a lot of tests and difficulties, don't quit. That's the struggle that makes you great. You know, great leaders don't talk much about their struggle while they're in it. They tell you after they're out of it. So I don't talk much about what I go through because I understand it's part of my life. Followers talk about what they're going through all the time. Oh, it's so tough. I don't know if I'm going to make it. I can't find food. I'm going to die. That's a follower. A leader just goes through it understand it, learn from it, grow through it, and when they're finished, they tell you their story. It's a process. At least the point number 5, write it down. True leadership is self-manifestation. A tree was always in the seed, am I correct? So when the tree becomes reality, the seed didn't go anywhere to get it. It just simply manifested what was always there. So you don't go to become a leader. You grow to become a leader. You don't go looking for leadership. You manifest it. This, therefore, life is more really about you becoming yourself than becoming someone else. You know, they say that a person who is well balanced have 3 things. Write them down. 1, self-concept. 2, self-worth. And 3, self-esteem. Now, what's the first word in each one of those? Self. Most people have never experienced those things. They experience other concept, other worth, other esteem. In other words, they become what other people expect them to be. They get value from other people. They get worth from other people. That means that they will never become themselves. They depend on other people to make them feel important. They depend on other people to give them high esteem. And they depend on other people to make them accept who they are. That means you are never yourself. You are other people. So the key to life is really discovering yourself. That leads to point number 6. The purpose for leadership, therefore, is not to control people, but to produce other leaders. True leaders produce leaders. This is my conviction. So great leaders always make themselves unnecessary. The reason why you may not see me a lot is because I did a good job. Some of you don't know what I'm doing. But my absence is proof of my leadership. If what you are doing cannot function without your presence, you are not a leader. So the goal of leadership is what? To produce leaders. If you don't produce leaders, you can never grow to the next place. And this is the problem. A lot of people hold on to positions and they can't go to the next one. In my book, Passing It On, which I hope you will read, I talk about the fact that the first act of a true leader is to identify their replacement and start training them right away. That's the first act of a true leader. They look around to find their replacement, maybe 2 or 3 of them, and they start mentoring them right away. Because the goal of leadership is to move on. And you leave someone in your place to protect what you built, to preserve what you worked for. Because if what you built die when you die, you are a failure. So leadership has to do with producing leaders, not maintaining followers. The philosophy that I talk about really can be summarized this way. Write this down. True leadership is not about finding something to live for. It's finding something to die for. In other words, leadership is finding a human cause that is worth sacrificing yourself for. And I talked about this in the last session because true leaders discover the problem that they were born to solve and they pursue it with all their heart. Write this down. I was born to solve a problem. Just write that down. I want you to say it with me. I was born to solve a problem. Say it. Okay. This is important, you know, because this is where you get your self-discovery from. You see, God created nothing that doesn't serve a purpose. Everything that exists in nature, created by God, was created to serve a purpose. Even what you may consider inanimate objects, they serve a purpose. For example, the mountains may not have life as you know it, but they have life as I know it, because the mountains serve a purpose. Mountains create valleys. Valleys is what makes the rain come down to create a river. The river is what brings water to your village. So the mountains are therefore a reason. Even though they don't breathe life as you know it, the design of the Creator makes them functional. In other words, everything in creation was created to solve a problem. Now, the Bible says, you are much more than these. So I assume then that there must be a bigger problem you were born to solve other than just making a river. So no one came to earth without an assignment that they're supposed to fulfill. I call it a problem or challenge. In other words, you came to earth because there's something that God needed done that made you necessary. So you don't exist just to breathe oxygen and eat food and then die or pay bills. You came to earth because there's something that you were born to solve, and that assignment is your area of leadership. That leads to my next point. True leadership is the personal commitment to sacrifice for that cause. And whatever you were born to do is for public benefit, not for personal benefit. I give this example all the time. A tree never eats its own fruit. Am I right? I mean, this tree worked so hard, came out of the seed, grew for 20 years, pushed out the soil, working with the wind, bowing and bending in this hurricane. And this tree don't eat a single fruit from itself. Why? Because everything that was created was born to serve something else. That includes you. And that's why Jesus Christ, his philosophy of leadership is very simple. He says the greatest among you. Let me put it another way. If you want to be great among everybody, he says, you serve them what you have. So the more you serve, the greater you become. So greatness has to do with serving your fruit to the market. That's what leadership is about. Leadership is about service. Now, let me give you 6 attributes of becoming a leader. Number 1, a belief in oneself. Say it with me. A belief in oneself. Write this down. This sounds very simple, but it's very tough. All great, true leaders have an affair with themselves. They love themselves. They believe in themselves. They believe that they can do what they are thinking. This makes them very dangerous. Because a person who has self-belief doesn't need your encouragement. It delivers them from the people they are helping. There's a scripture in the Bible. I didn't teach on this for a while. Maybe it took 20 years ago, I think I taught about this. But the scripture in the Bible, when I was a teenager, it really changed my life. I mean, it's amazing. It was a parable that Jesus told about, different groups of people and how they respond to life. And he said one group is like rock. You can't help them. Whatever you put on them rolls off. Then there's another group who got very thin soil. They get excited about everything and do nothing. Then you got a third group who got a little bit of soil and they get excited about what they receive, but when the pressures of life come and other people's opinions and criticism comes, they are choked up and they forget what you taught them. And then he says there's the last group who are deep soil. They take it in, they grow, and they bear fruit. He says the reason why the others didn't make it, he explained it. He says because, now here's a statement, changed my life, they did not have root in themselves. I couldn't believe he said that. I'm going to quote it again. He says the reason why they failed, they didn't have root in themselves. See, I figured it out when I was a kid. That if you put your root in everybody else, then you depend on them to live. The root of the tree is the source of its life. So if your roots are spread all over the place, then you got to hope that the place is successful. You got to hope the place got water or you're going to die. He said, get root in yourself, just in case people withdraw their water. Find self-belief. That leads to point number 2. The second powerful attribute of a leader is a passion for the job. When I use the word job, I mean your work. Leaders have a passion for what they're doing. Now, passion is an important word. Passion has more to do with internal motivation than external motivation. In other words, a leader's passion is internally motivated by a conviction, and therefore they are not afraid of failure, because their capacity to start again is on the inside. Let me put it another way. Leaders are leaders because they are not afraid to fail. They're not afraid to fail because their belief is not in other people, it's in themselves. Write this down. Leaders are their own raw material. They believe that they have what it takes to do what they're dreaming. They believe it. And even though they may fail and falter and people may leave them and things may fall apart, they always get back up because somehow they believe this thing exists on the inside. I had a brief moment to meet Donald Trump one time. This guy is a billionaire, you know. And we went to eat at a golf club, Muck. And he was in this golf club. He owned it. And one of the gentlemen who was with me said, "Would you like to meet him?" I said, "Of course I'd like to meet Donald Trump." So he took me over to the table, introduced me, and I learned a lesson, you know, years ago. Whenever you are in the presence of somebody who's successful, don't talk about yourself. Ask questions. Remember that. So when you're with someone who's smarter than you, who's more successful than you, keep your mouth shut. Don't tell them who you are and where you've been and all the things you did. Remember, you broke. So you won't find out what made this person successful. So I asked Mr. Trump one question. I said, "Sir, can I ask you a question?" He said, "Sure." I said, "What made you so successful in real estate?" He said, "Failure." Failure. He said, "You have to become bankrupt before you become successful." I was so glad for that answer, because I was bankrupt at the moment. In other words, what he was saying is, if you're going to become great in your area of gifting, you have to lose everything at one point first. Sometimes you're thinking, this dream God gave me didn't work out, and why is it so much tough, life, and why, if God is with me, why am I losing everything? God is saying, look, I'm qualifying you for greatness. He said, people don't know his story. He went bankrupt twice. Then things turned around. Passion for the job. The third thing a leader must have is a love for people. If you don't like people, don't lead them. I've met some people who don't like people, and they are very famous people. And some of them are leaders in the ministry. They don't like people. I've been behind the curtain with big auditoriums and listened to them talk to me, and I'm in shock sometimes. And these are powerful ministers of God who got big ministries. They don't like people. That's why they hide, they slip away, they run. They got guards around them. Why? They don't really like people. And people pick that up. You ain't stupid, right? Yeah. You have to learn to love people. And the way you learn to love people is two ways. One, discover who you are. And two, who they are. This is really true what I'm saying. When I discovered that you were the image of God, and I was the image of God, I fell in love with you. It was the discovery of that reality, that you are the image of God, and I am the image of God. We're the same image. So I can't love me and hate you, because you and I are me. Are you with me? And I can't hate you if you are God. This is God's image. So I can't say I love God and hate you. So when I discovered that as a teenager, I fell in love with humanity. Today, I love people. And this is why I can serve them. And let me tell you something about leadership. You got to love people because sometimes they are not lovable. So you got to what? Love them. Most of the time, the people you are leading are not lovable. But you got to love them. Jesus said, love one another as I have loved you. How did he love us? It says, while you were yet a sinner, he died for you. He chose to love you when you didn't even know you needed his love. He said, love people like that. Because he knew who we were. We were his image. Okay, number 4. Leaders must have a capacity for aloneness. One of the greatest attributes of leadership is getting used to being alone. Now notice I didn't say lonely, okay? Loneliness is a sickness. It's a disease. Loneliness is a sign that you don't love yourself. A person who loves themselves love to be by themselves because they love the company. You get it after I'm gone. In other words, me and myself have a great time together. We could spend the whole day together talking to each other. Why? I love me so much. And if you don't love me, it doesn't matter. I love me, me love me. So we have a good time together. And that's what leaders must do. They must learn to love themselves so they can be alone. Alone also means that you may be the only person who believes what you believe. It's lonely to be a leader in the sense that you have to be alone all the time in your belief system. Write this down. Every vision only has one believer first. Every true vision only has one believer first. When you see the vision that God gave birth to do, not even your spouse believes it. It's like Abraham going home and telling his wife, we're going to have a baby. I just spoke with God in the mountain. He told me we're going to have a baby. He's 75 and his wife, hitting hard at 75. And he telling her we're going to have a baby. No Viagra, no nothing. We're going to have a baby. And what does the Bible say? Sarah laughed. In other words, she didn't believe his vision. True leaders don't look for company all the time. Because sometimes there isn't any company to be with. No one believes you. Leaders live a very alone life. This is why the eagles are such an important bird. Eagles never flock. That's why they're the king of birds. When you see an eagle flying, it's always one at a time by themselves. Pigeons flock. Ducks flock. Quack, 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 flock. Eagles never flock. They're always alone. They're the king of birds. Leadership has to be used to being alone. And this is why a politician, for example, who wants to change his country and has a vision for the nation must understand that the people of his own circle will misunderstand him and not be with him. And accept that as proof that you are a leader. Your job is to sell that vision to them. Not to forget the vision or give it up. It's to sell it. If you believe it, you have a conviction about it, first you will be alone. Then you have to sell it. All right? Number 5. Leaders have a satisfaction for the success of others. Now, this also is tied to the one before that. Leaders are not jealous of other people's success. True leaders are so self-confident in their own security that they can enjoy other people's success. There are some people who don't want you to succeed. They will trap, they will block, they will try to stop, they will hinder, they will talk, gossip, attack. They hate your success. But a true leader rejoices when you succeed. As a matter of fact, a leader gets joy when he creates somebody better than himself. I like the mind of Jesus Christ. What a leader he was. Here's his philosophy of other people's success. He said, it is better for you that I move out of the way. Because if I don't move out of the way, you won't do greater works. Listen to the thinking. He says, look, I am stopping your greatness. So I'm going to move on the side so you can become greater. He used the word greater. Greater works than I have done. Greater. Your success is my joy, he says. True leaders do not try and hinder other people's greatness. They actually take credit for it. The Apostle John, I never read this you should read the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, just before Revelation. Read those 2 books. John had disciples, a very strong guy, powerful master teacher. And John said in those books, he says, it is my pleasure and my joy that my children walk in truth. Then he says, I wish above all things that you would prosper and be in health, even as your soul. He was wishing for their success. Sometimes it is very dangerous to succeed around your family. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Your family could actually hate you because you're successful. They can't enjoy your success. And it tells a lot about their mentality, that they are still dealing and suffering from inferiority complexes, low self-esteem, poor self-worth. They have contaminated self-esteem, and they cannot enjoy other people's success. But true leaders love to see people achieve greatness. And what they do is they take credit for it too. They say, see that? I helped them become that. You don't get jealous, you rejoice. Number 6 rather. An attribute of a leader has a commitment to the betterment of humanity. All true leaders want to see humanity advance. Now notice I use the term humanity, not yourself. True leaders have a strange love for humanity. If you study all the great leaders in history that we remember and we revere, they never had personal ambition. They had public ambition. Think about Moses, what he went through for those people. That's why we love and respect him. Think about Joshua, what he went through for those people. That's why we love and respect him. Think about Daniel. Daniel says he prayed for his people to be delivered from the slavery in Babylon. It wasn't for him. He wanted the people to be free. That's why Daniel is remembered. David stood before that giant, not for himself, but because of what the giant was doing to his people and his God. He was fighting out for somebody else. You remember David? Nelson Mandela. It was for the people he went to jail. Mahatma Gandhi. It was for the people he went to jail. In other words, all great leaders constantly focus on humanity. We need more leaders in our countries who have a love for humanity instead of their own pocketbook. Many leaders go into positions to get their peace, not to bring peace. Many leaders go into position to fatten their own pockets, not to make sure the empty pockets of the people are filled. They're not true leaders. These are parasites. These are leeches with titles. They suck the blood out of humanity instead of giving humanity life. Great leaders always work for the betterment of people. That leads me now to how to lead effectively. How do we lead effectively? All right. I want to give you a list that you must remember, okay? And this will take me about 3 months to teach this one slide, but I'll just give you the list, okay? This is what I call how to lead effectively. First, leaders create things. Write it down. Leaders are creators. They can take nothing and produce something. You give a leader a boat and you turn it into a fishing industry. They create things. You give a leader a piece of property, he turns it into a farm. Secondly, leaders are builders. They're involved in building. The leader, as a creator of culture, he builds the culture that he wants in the organization. Leaders create the organization and then they build the culture that they want. They actually establish the mentality in the environment. Thirdly, Leaders maintain. Now, I want to say carefully with this word. They maintain and sustain the culture that they want. They don't maintain and sustain the organization. They maintain the culture. In other words, if I want a culture of excellence in my organization, then I maintain that culture at all costs. You don't allow the culture to wane or to fall. So leaders maintain quality, even though they change productivity. They even change products, but they keep the quality. They maintain quality. Number 4, leaders are always involved in changing things. They are change agents. Leaders are always fixing things that are successful. Paradox. If something is working, leaders will fix it. Paradox. If it's doing well, they will fix it. They don't wait for things to break down or become obsolete. They even change what is successful. That leads me to point number 5. Leaders are developers. Leaders are those who reproduce after their kind. Managers have to understand that you cannot manage people. Human beings are too complicated to manage. In my book that I wrote some years ago, the book is called Becoming a Leader. Please read that book. I talk about management in there and how we can fuse management with development. You can't manage humans. You can develop humans, but you can't manage humans. Humans are too complicated. They are emotional muck. You can't, you could take a gun and force me to do something, and that's not management. That's dictatorship. You can't really manage people. You can manage a copying machine, you can manage a computer, you can manage, a machine, but humans need to be developed. So a leader is one who develops people. When he meets them a certain way. When he leaves, they are different persons. Most of you who came to this ministry years ago, you're not the same person. You learned so much, you didn't even know what you learned. And you changed. And that's a sign that there's leadership in this house. Your development is a sign that somebody has tapped into your greatness and encouraged you to come up. This is what leadership is about developing people. All right. 6 marks of a future leader. Well, I gave you some heavy stuff tonight. The future leader that's going to make it in this generation will not be the one that brought us here to this point in life. So what are the marks of the future leader? Number 1, they will have an extraordinary level of perception and insight. Now, this is a big sentence, but what it means is the leader of the future will not be living by rote knowledge. This is what I learned, this is the way I learned it, this is the way it's supposed to be. No, that won't work anymore. They got to be very pliable. They got to be very insightful. They got to understand human nature, human conditioning, understand the environment. They got to be very perceptive to make things happen. Secondly, the leader of the future will have an extraordinary level of motivation to handle change. They don't panic when things don't go their way. They got to be able to handle massive change and still remain in control of themselves. You will not survive as a leader or an emerging leader if you can't handle massive change. In other words, don't expect anything to remain the same. Leaders are always aware that everything is in transition. That includes your paycheck and your job. That includes your marriage and your kids. Everything is in transition. So leaders do not try and keep things the way they are. Secondly, leadership of the future must have an emotional strength because they must manage what I call anxiety of change, and they must learn new skills. Some of you in this room and those of you watching would agree that what you learned in school ain't helping you no more. Why? Because the skills they taught you are useless now. It's a whole new culture. So a leader doesn't panic when that happens. A leader manages anxiety. Instead of becoming afraid, I don't want to learn this new, this new machine. I don't want to learn this new function. I don't want to learn this new skill. They are always open to learn. In other words, leaders never graduate from the school of life. If you're going to be a successful leader in this next 10, 20 years, you're going to have to be one who can handle anxiety well, because any day they can walk in and tell you, we're going to change the department. We're going to bring in a new system. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm too old to go back to school. Well, listen, then pick up your bike and, take your rocking chair with you. Because if you are a leader, that's what you got to expect. Number 4, the marks of a leader for the future. They will have to learn new skills to analyze cultural assumptions and evolving processes. Now, what I mean by that is you got to learn how to live with changing cultures. You got to work with people who don't believe what you believe. Work with people who don't dress like the way you dress. And yet you got to lead them without imposing yourself. You must be able to be skilled in analyzing cultural uniqueness. And then this one is very important, number 5 rather. You must be willing and have the ability to involve other people. The days of you doing everything by yourself and you're the one getting all the glory is over. Ease up, let go, delegate, and share the glory. The days of you being the manager of the warehouse is over. The days of you being the CEO in charge of the whole company is over. These are the days where you got to learn what I call lateral leadership, not vertical leadership. That means you want to build an organization of leaders, not an organization with a leader. In other words, you don't want to come from the top down. You want to go from the middle out. You want to build leaders on your level to say, okay, all of us can do these jobs. I'm training everybody. Why? Because I am temporary. So leaders must be willing to involve other people in their work and in their vision. Number 6, leaders must be have the willingness and the ability to share power and to share control according to knowledge and skills. I learned this one from Moses, I am so glad that you can't do everything. Because if you could do everything, you wouldn't need nobody. So God made sure you can't do everything. He made sure of that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to write a book in the next couple of years. The book is going to be called Divine Defects. God makes sure that everyone has a defect. He makes sure of it. Because your defect is someone else's job. Comprende? See? You remember Moses? God was talking to Moses. And Moses said, God, I can't talk well. Probably my speech. And he started, using this as an excuse, why he shouldn't be the leader. And God's answer was very strange. And most people don't like his answer because it doesn't go well with the charismatic movement. Of course, I embrace all of God's answers. God says, Moses, let me quote it. This is found in, write it down, Exodus chapter 4. Okay, read that chapter. That's your homework for tonight. God says, Moses, I know you cannot speak. Okay, so let's get that over with. Don't tell me what you cannot do. I know you cannot do it. Then God tells him why he couldn't speak. It's shocking. God says, who makes men dumb? Who makes men deaf? Who makes men blind? Who makes men maim? Is it not I, the Lord? Now he's explaining to Moses why he can't talk. In other words, there are some handicaps that may come from demonic influence, some from maybe, natural situations, or maybe from disease or whatever. He said, but there's some of them I myself created. He said, most of the reason why you can't talk because I am the one who makes men deaf, blind, dumb, and maimed. Watch this now. He says, I did that. And then God shifts to this strange statement. He says, therefore, go. In other words, I am not going to heal you. See, Moses expects God who turned the fire in the bush and who turned the snake into, the rod. This is a powerful God. He's going to heal my tongue. God said, I ain't going to touch your tongue. I'm the one who messed it up. Watch this now. He said, because even now, your brother Aaron is on his way to meet you. And he'll be here in a little while. And he will be your mouth. In other words, he was born for the purpose of speaking for you. So if I heal you, he don't have a job. You don't understand how deep God is. In other words, God designs people with different skills so you can lead them. So a true leader knows their weaknesses. Write it down. A true leader knows where they're weak. And, President Ronald Reagan was an actor in Hollywood. This guy was an actor. Can you believe that? And he became the president of the United States. And in my estimation, he's one of the most successful ones. He was a true leader. It is he who actually dismantled communism. But Mr. Reagan was asked a question one day. And, the media was very, sarcastic with him because they think he's just an actor who rode horses, in cowboy movies, he was like a cowboy. So they figured this guy running America, he's just a cowboy. So they asked him a question. He wear cowboy boots all the time to the president. And he had a cowboy hat. He's a Western guy who's president of the United States. Some of you might not even remember him. But they asked him a question. They said, Mr. Reagan, it's amazing. You seem to be doing all right. They said, what is your secret to your presidency being so successful? I never forgot the answer. I was in college. He said, I starve my weaknesses. Oh, that's deep. I starve my weaknesses. What he's saying is, where I'm weak, I hire somebody who got the strength. So all my weak areas, I got these strong people around me who could do it, and I get the credit. In other words, a great leader will share power and control with skill. You can't do everything. And sometimes we get this attitude, this is my company, this is my department, this is my government, this is my administration, my. You stay right there. There are people around you who will sabotage your life. And there's some people working in your department right now who are making your life a hell. Why? You don't want to give them any credit for nothing. You want to take all the glory. Great leaders share power and they distribute control because they share based on knowledge and skill. When I choose members of the board of this ministry, a very powerful board, strong board. All my choices are very strategic. Everybody on the board got a strength. And those strengths are important. And whenever I see a weakness, I bring somebody on the board to take care of that. Because you got to have a strong body if you're going to move history. And the body consists of eyes and noses and mouths and hands and feet and fingers. You got to have all these parts working. Do you realize your head cannot pick up nothing? Your head can't take you nowhere. Your head can't see. It can't hear. It can't do, your brain can't do nothing. And yet it claims to be the head. Your brain uses the eye to look at the door. And your brain thinks, go outside. Go outside. Go outside. And the foot says, I ain't going nowhere. See? So the brain got to depend on the skill of the feet. So the head appreciates the skills of the whole body. So it distributes power. Distributes power. All right, let me close with this and then we can pick up here next time. Don't forget next session, all right? 5 characteristics of the future leader. 5 of them. And I want you to learn them because you're going to become great one day. And these will help you to become great. The first one, the future leader is one who can lead and follow. The days of you being the leader permanently is over. A leader that is wise is one who shifts position without changing disposition. Can I say it again? A great leader is one who can shift positions without changing disposition. In other words, I am always the leader, but I'm not always the one leading. There are times when I need to follow. Why? Because what I need, I don't have. So I got to submit to someone who has it. So a leader has the ability to lead and follow. And you need to know when to do it. You need to know when, hey, this is the point where I need to listen. This is the point where I need to let this other person take over, because this is their strength. So you can't walk around these days anymore saying that I'm in charge and what I say goes. Yeah, you go by yourself, all right. You wander off into nothingness. You must be able to lead and follow. Okay. Secondly, the second characteristic of a leader must be central and marginal. This is very important. The leader of the future must be central and what? Marginal. What I mean by that is the great leader of this day will have to be one who is in the middle of everything, but also in touch with the outside of everything. You don't stay in your office, lock the door, and hope everything works out. You better go walk around, touch people, listen to people, get on the ground floor, listen to what's going on in the streets. Why? Because the leader must be in touch with the center and the margin. Jesus Christ, to me, was the greatest leader of all time. This guy was something else. I still can't get over Jesus. Jesus would actually be in a crusade with adults and then play with kids in the middle of the crusade. He was in touch with these old people and these young people at the same time. And the old people wanted the young people to leave the meeting. He said, no, leave them in the meeting. They are people. He was in the center and the margin. He helped the Roman centurion, and then he helped a woman who was some South Phoenician woman, and then he helped a Samaritan woman with 5 husbands. This guy was in touch with all levels. He was in touch with people. There's some people who wouldn't even want to mix with you. You know, people tell me, my wife all the time, how come you all don't come with any entourage? Where's your bodyguard? I said, my bodyguard is my wife. And people still amazed. They said, sometimes they would ask my son and daughter, can we shake his hands? And my son and daughter go into shock. What are you talking about, shake his hands? Why? Are you afraid to shake his hands? Go ahead, shake his hands. Because there's some leaders who say, don't touch me. Some people, you know, you can always tell when someone else was there before I came. They see me on TV, they see other person on TV, and they expect me to be like them. Then when I come, you know, I go sit down on the floor with them and I eat popcorn. They're like, are you actually sitting here? I say, yeah, I like popcorn. And they're like, but you's Myles Munroe. I said, yes, I'm Myles Munroe. I mean, the Myles Munroe? Yes, I'm Myles Munroe. The one on TV? Yes. You sitting here? Yes. Wow, you're different. No, I'm in touch with the center and the margin. Because people are in the center and the margin. Love the people in the center and the margin. The Bible says, love without partiality. Don't be partial when you're loving people. Remember this, you can't lead people who don't like you. Write that down, man. This is important. Some of y'all make enemies that people can follow me. You don't make enemies that people follow you. Eventually, people are going to get rid of you. I'm telling you, you don't treat people with respect and love all the people, no matter where they're located. Eventually, they're going to become your problem. You know, one of the things they said about the founding father of our country, Sir Lyndon Pendley, I'm sure you heard about it in the last few weeks, where we celebrated our 40th anniversary, you know, how he was able to be, you know, the prime minister and yet go to Andrews and sit on the floor and eat crab with an old woman. They said, and people remember that. He was in the center and the margin. There are some people who come down in the margin, but their mind is still in the center. Can I say it slow? There are some people who will come to the margin. They pretending to be with you, but their mind is in the center. They don't want to be with you. They come for votes. You need someone who is real in touch, genuinely love the margin and the center. I don't pretend nothing in my life. I'm telling you, what you see is exactly who I am. I'm sure you know me long enough. This is me. Sometimes visitors come here, from around the world every weekend, and you see them come here, and they come shake my hand, and they'll say, "You mean you just stay here with all the people?" I said, "You stay with us? I mean, the people just walk up to you?" I said, "Yeah." And the kids, I said, "Yeah." They said, "Ooh, you're different." I'm sitting there going, "What are you talking about different? This is normal. These are people." You can't lead and you can't stay locked up in some ivory tower so you're a leader. Most people are ivory tower dwellers because their people's skills are so poor. They can't have just a normal conversation with people about their needs. True leaders can live in the center and the margin. And you can't make it if you don't do that. All right? Here's the other one. Leaders must be hierarchical, above and below. In other words, same thing. Deal with the people at the top and also deal with those in the bottom the same way. Some of you may have seen the picture with me and the president of Honduras. I don't know if you saw it on the screen. I guess I had it there. And here I am with all these presidents, and I'm working with them, and I work with these top leaders. And then in the same meeting, I'll go down and talk to somebody, drink a cup of tea with them, in a restaurant. And they're like, "Were you just with the president?" So how come you're sitting here at this table with all these young people? Because they're people. If you can't go below, you don't deserve to be above. The Bible says, Jesus said these words, he says, "Except you become like a little child, you cannot live in God's kingdom." He says, "And except you accept men like a little child, you cannot be my disciple." Don't you ever forget where you came from. I sit in these massive meetings, all these thousands of people. I'm the main speaker. All these muckamucks are there, and I say, "I'm from Baintown." And they're like, "What is Baintown?" I say, "It's one of the poorest areas of my island where I was born. I slept on the floor." And I tell my story in that Swiss Economic Forum with all these millionaires. I tell them, that's where I came from. In other words, I ain't gonna never forget where I came from. Y'all ain't gonna make me think like y'all. Sometimes we forget. We drive around, close up our windows, speak to them people. You stay right there. They flatten your tire. Everybody deserves respect. They're all humans. Praise the Lord. All right. Number 4. The future leader must be individualistic and a team player. Both. They have to know when they must make a decision, and they must know when they must share the decision. In other words, the leader of this next century will be a leader who knows, I don't know everything, but I know that I'm responsible. So I will be both collective and individualist. I will be personal and also team player. You have to be both. All right. Number 5, must be perpetual learner. Leader with perpetual learner. I read and study. I go to conferences. I sit in other people's sessions and take notes. You know why? Because you'll be amazed how much things I learn listening to other speakers, and then I bring them home and you think they're mine. Don't you ever stop learning from other people. Some of the ministers of this church who I trained, who came up under this ministry, they sit here and make me take notes. Why? They discover things I never knew. Some of the greatest teachers are the ones you taught. So you must always be a learner. I keep encouraging you to read books. Don't think I want to sell books. I don't sell books. I want you to become a learner. A leader is a reader. Say it. Yeah. The only difference between a leader and a reader is the first letter. read books. If you want people to think you are smart, here's my secret. Have a good memory. I'll just give you a secret. I'm going to say it again. If you want people to think you are smart, have a good memory. Read all my books, memorize everything, and then make it yours. Everything I know, I learned from somebody. And then I made it mine. Nothing new under the sun. It's been here before. But you got to go get it. So leaders are always learners. They are constantly learning. And I want you to know that in the next session, we're going to be talking about the 10 principles of leadership. We're going to be talking about how to wake up that leader. 10 specific things you must do. Don't miss the next session. But I believe that tonight, sitting in this room in your chair, is the kind of leader that can make the 21st century a beautiful place. You have what it takes to change the world. You do. And some of you probably, wonder, is that possible? That's why I'm talking to you. That's why God helped me talking to you. I'm talking to you because you know me. You know where I came from, South Street. And then you see me with 100,000 people, the heads of state, which means that if he did it for me, and that's why he tells you to come back home, go back home and tell them, show them, be with them, because sometimes you think that, these people got this special gift or something. That ain't true. They just discovered something, that's all, about themselves. And I hope you find that self. This is my heart, for you to discover who you are. In that is your gifting. And your gifting is your area of prosperity. I want to encourage you. And, I'm thinking maybe sometime later this year, I'm going to have a couple of private sessions where I talk to you about how to become, how to market yourself. Can I put it there? How to market yourself. How to turn yourself into money. Because everybody here is money. But being able to know how to market it is tough. Because you're not taught that. And you and I have our wealth on it's on the inside. We are learning to market that. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for giving us a privilege tonight to learn a little bit about your plan for us. Thank you for the reality that we are born to lead. Thank you for giving us examples around us that inspire us. Thank you for giving us hope that we won't die the way we were born. We won't be staying where we are. We're going to move. I pray for those who have been discouraged, those who have had the bankruptcy experience. I pray for those who are at that moment where they want to throw the towel in. I pray for those who are at the point where they feel that nothing's working. I pray, I petition you, Lord, on behalf of them, that you will speak to them right now. Let them hear your voice that says, the best is yet to come. Help us to believe in the future more than we believe in the past. Help us believe in what you told us, not what our eyes see. Help us to trust what you showed us, not what our eyes are telling us. Help us to believe that is possible. I pray for a supernatural visitation by your Holy Spirit. For you said in your word, Lord, and do it tonight, you said that when the Holy Spirit comes upon us and lives in us, the old will get their dreams back, and the young will see visions. And the handmaidens will prophesy what they see. Holy Spirit, do your work right now. Let dreams and visions and prophecies come to life in the hearts of the people right here. and the thousands who are watching this live. We pray that this will be the night everything turns around. Thank you, Lord. And finally, Lord, I petition you to give us the confidence to believe not just in you, but to believe in ourselves. That what we need is on the inside. That the tree is in the seed.